Alright, so I thought if I did a video about John Carlos, I might as well do one about Malala. That's the other book that I just recently read. Both of those were great books. You can find those videos on my channel as well. Definitely recommend it for anyone who's looking to learn more about um, social rights on a domestic as well as worldwide scale. It's a good look, and those are good books to read. So here we go. This is Malala Yousafzai. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly all the way, but she was she is still to this day, um, born in Pakistan. Just let's start from the beginning. Born in Pakistan, um, in the Swat Valley, and she is famous because she stood up for education at a time when it was very dangerous to do so, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But just to kind of make the transition into when her story began to be noticed on an international level, I think it's important to bring up what I believe to be the turning point in her life. So, I believe it was around 2005 when there was a massive earthquake that rocked Pakistan, and the Swat Valley was hit especially hard. There were many people who died, and people's homes were destroyed. Basically, the country was it was completely a mess, and people were looking to other sources. They were looking to the government to help. And it was just a hard time for many people because their lives had been destroyed and they lost their loved ones. And in short, they were vulnerable. And through all this, I guess something that was the group basically exploited the people's vulnerability. And what I'm talking about is a radical group, and the name of the group slips my mind, but they were basically led by someone named Fazlullah, and he's pictured here. I believe he was reported to have been killed by a drone strike a few years back. But basically, what his organization did is they used their influence at a time when people were vulnerable, and these are people who were not, many people were not educated beyond primary school, and they turned to religion to get many of their, when they needed to get advice about their life and what they should do, they turned to Islam. But it's this group, and it's something that still continues to this day, that has kind of twisted Islam in a way where they use it to fulfill their own purposes. They established very strict Sharia law rules, and it was at this point where Malala's education and girls of her same age, their education as well, became threatened by this new group that kind of came in the midst of the earthquake and tried to help people, but at the same time exploited their vulnerability. See, towards the left in this picture, you can see a man who is dressed in what you can consider to be more Western clothes. He has that Western shirt on, he has the collar, that type of thing, and that's important to recognize because as soon as the earthquake hit is when the rise of the more fundamentalist and really totalitarian even form of rule started to undermine people's way of life. So from that moment on, men were told to have their beards long and not to wear Western clothing. Women were not allowed to go outside without a male relative, and they must be wearing a burqa or something similar to conceal themselves. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how quickly things changed for Malala and her right to education. This is the truck that's kind of converted into a school bus, and this is actually where she was shot by the Taliban. They approached this school bus as they were going home one day, and although the name of the school was printed on the side, the two men approached the driver and they said, is this the bus for the Kushal school? And the driver kind of laughed at them, like, of course, anyone who's from here would know that this is the school bus. The other man ran around to the back and he asked the girls, and although no one spoke up, he kind of realized who Malala was because everyone in the bus looked at her. He asked, which one of you, who is Malala? And the other girls looked in her direction, and that's when he started um, to fire his gun. I believe he shot off 3 bullets, one of which struck Malala, and she was the most badly hurt. I believe 2 other girls were injured, but they did survive the incident as well. She was transferred to a hospital. I believe it was 2 hospitals in Pakistan before she was medevaced all the way out to Birmingham, England, where she received a few um, great operations, and she was able to, um, through the work of different physical therapy and other things like that, she was able to restore most of the and reverse any of the damage that came to the side of her face through this incident. So this picture kind of shows the trajectory of the bullet through the side of her face and her skull. And this next picture is her family, her father and her 2 brothers. Her father was actually the person who founded the schools um, in her town in the Swat Valley. So he's kind of a man who served as a great role model for her, and that's kind of where she got many of her values to stand up for others and give a voice to the voiceless. Her mother's pictured, I believe, in the foreground of this picture, but she didn't feel comfortable being photographed just because of the way that and it's for me it's hard to put it into words, but at that at that time that the picture was being taken, she didn't feel comfortable showing her face on camera, just because that was the way that the religion dictated normal life, or I guess the perverted version of the religion dictated normal life. This is Malala receiving a Nobel Prize, and I believe she's the youngest person ever to receive a Nobel Prize. And this is her with Barack Obama. And something interesting she says in her book, when she met him, that they had a good conversation, but towards the end she told him um, she's glad that he stands up for people's rights and that he agreed to meet her. But she also said to him rather sternly, she said, when you um, carry out your drone strikes in places like Pakistan, sure, you kill many of the enemies, but you also kill innocent people. So I believe that's something powerful that she was able to recognize that um, even someone like the ruler of the free world can be given constructive criticism like that. And I think it took a lot of courage for her to bring that up. So that is a quick snapshot into the story of Malala. Again, I recommend that you read her book. I know that I really liked it. You can check out my quick thoughts about that book in another video. Um, but yeah, thank you for tuning into this one, and hopefully you will continue to watch for my next videos. Let me know what you think of these videos in the comment section down below.